There you go. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. It looks like we have everybody popping on to this afternoon's workshop. Wonderful.
Yes, I'm very excited for it.
Oh, very good. Well, you should be. We have a wonderful artist here today, so looking forward to this meeting. So without further ado, I'll get things started today. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the first igNIGHT workshop series for this year with artist Dylan Thomas, also known as Dylan Toymaker. My name is Teresa Buller, and I'm a coordinator with the Culture and Social Development branch of the RMWB, and I'll be your host for this evening. I'd like to start, of course, by acknowledging that we are here together, or that this event is being held on Treaty 8 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Dene, and Métis people. And these Indigenous people are the original creatives of this area, whose traditional craft and knowledge has been shared for generations. And I'd just like to acknowledge my role in supporting and protecting their cultural protocols and values, as I am committed to forging paths towards decolonizing the art processes and promoting a more inclusive and collaborative space for Indigenous art and craft to be shared. So before we begin, with Dylan's presentation, there are a few housekeeping items that I'd like to share with you. First of all, that this event is being recorded as an act of transparency and a form of record keeping, and it will also be made available on our website at rmwb.ca/ignite, and I'll have our lovely moderator Danielle put that up in the chat box. You'll notice that your audio devices are muted for the duration of the presentation portion. This is just so that we can monitor some of the background noise that might be happening within your own home, and so that Dylan is able to present uninterrupted. But you can still ask questions using the chat box. So I'd like everybody to familiarize themselves with that chat box, and maybe just pop in where you're coming online from, maybe what your favorite food is, something like that, just so that we can all see a little lovely message from all of you pop in there. And I'll put one in here. I'll just say hello. I'm seated in Jubilee Building. Okay. Hi from Beacon Hill. Okay, great. Pop some others in here. Good. I see Barbara. Hi. Good. Excellent. Kira, I'm hopefully pronouncing that right. Yeah, welcome. In from Edmonton. Fabulous. Ooh, Lucy, all the way from Nanaimo. This is fun. Okay, so as we start familiarizing ourselves within this chat box, thank you. So feel free to use that or ask questions in there, and myself or our moderator will pass those by Dylan as he continues his presentation. So also, of course, as we always prepare for these events, please note that technical difficulties do happen. So we will do our best to try to return back to the space with the same link that you have right now. But if we don't, we will reschedule this event, okay? And then, of course, art is a form of expression. So we like to offer a safe space here for discussion. So please keep that in mind, and disrespectful behavior will not be tolerated, and you will be kicked out of this discussion. So without further delay, I'd like to welcome our light-based installation artist, Dylan Thomas, also known as Dylan Toymaker. Dylan is a master of creating event-based art through lighting installation. He amplifies spaces, creating a deeper connection to the culture of an event. Dylan has curated works throughout Canada, including many Alberta-based festivals like the Flying Canoe Volant Festival, Edmonton's Folk Festival, and Jasper's Dark Sky Festival. And this is just to name a few. So today, Dylan will be taking you through an hour-long workshop, and this is and we'll also include some opportunities for Q&A, and we'll unmute you for those moments, of course. The agenda includes an introduction to light-based art, then followed by playing with light and shadow, followed by designing stencil patterns. We'll take a moment for Q&A, maybe for a quick washroom break if you need. And then moving on to artist concept, design competition, and then we'll close with another set of Q&A. So with that, I'd like to invite Dylan to take the reins and sort of guide you through this hour-long virtual workshop. Looking forward to it. And again, welcome, and thank you for joining us. We'll see if Dylan can pop on here.
Hey, so can you all hear me? Yeah, let's get some thumbs up. That's good. Yeah, so I've been an artist for more than half my life now. That was a little while. I started out, my main focus was in recycled-based materials, and that's also where I started discovering light. A lot of those recycled materials include old LEDs and things like that, and in someone cannot see me.
Yeah, your video isn't on, Dylan. Perfect.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I started with tiny little LEDs back in '95 and made them flash, made them blink, and it was fun. Couldn't really do a lot with LEDs at the time, but they got brighter and brighter, and I started doing more and more. I guess light art as a medium, in one sense, every visual art is dependent on light. So it could all be light art. We don't usually call things that depend on standardized indoor or sunlight to be light-based art, because the light there is the fixed standard. So light art is usually something where you're working with the light as the thing that does the interesting thing. And I would call that starting out with like shadow puppetry, and that record, we've got records at least as far as 1000 BCE. I believe I've read something sometime about shadow art was a big part of the cave painting process, so maybe it goes back 30,000 years. It's been a thing. You've done light art, so you've played with shadows before for sure, and also like those, you put a glass in the sunbeam and then it makes that crazy pattern. Like that's also light art research that you have been doing already in your past. What we usually mean when we're talking about light-based art nowadays is, I guess, projection art is a big thing. I don't do a lot of that, but it is super fun. You get a projector and you put your two-dimensional artwork over a three-dimensional object, and it gives it a whole new dimension. And movies, in a sense that they're also light-based, but again, that's the it's kind of their own whole thing, so it doesn't usually get included. Theater, event, stage lighting, those are major categories of light art, and they've started doing theater lighting in the 1600s with candles, and that was, as you can imagine, a big mess, and they've been quite happy to use all the new other kinds of lighting that have been invented since candles to do better jobs with less smoke and burning wax. And then a lot of people doing light art nowadays, there's a big world of neon, artistic neon. Now that we don't use a lot of it for signs, then artists are going back into that as a art form, and that's really exciting. You get to blow glass and put noble gases inside of vacuums, inside of the glass, and then spark it with electrical arcs and stuff. I use a lot of LEDs in a lot of different ways. You can use it as a projection medium or as a backing thing. I'm going to throw on some examples and go through that. Let's find my share. Share this screen, window, that. Okay. So you can all see that that picture? Yeah. Cool. So this was one of my earlier pieces, 2007. I did a small workshop and walk series with my friends. 11 of us made some lanterns and lit them with with candles, again, messy candles, and went for a walk in the ravine, took some pictures. It's really fun. The candle wax on our shoulders, I decided to make an LED replacement for the candles pretty soon after that. Around then, I was also doing a lot of UV reactive stuff, so blacklight as the alternative medium. I guess people using different colors of light to make their paint do different things is kind of within the light painting universe. Sometimes people use an RGB color changing lamp to scroll through colors to make their paintings like kind of move and morph with the new colors of light. This is me with a whole stack of LEDs inside of diffusers, which I got from milk jugs. The HPDE from milk jugs is an amazing diffuser and fairly readily available. This was what I used to light up those same cardboard lanterns after I stopped using candles. This is a projection piece I did. You might recognize that motif from this picture. I took slides of a whole bunch of things and then used a slide projector to project it onto physical objects. Some transparent ones, some non-transparent ones, some different shapes to give like a whole new thing to that. And then I took pictures of those projections and then I used that to project later. So it was a really fun exercise in recursion. This is another UV light and paint. I painted a whole bunch of things years ago, and then this was a set of umbrellas. I would paint them different ways and light them up and carry them around. This is another combination of forms. So I did a sculptural element with cut out cardboard, painted it with the UV reactive paint, lit it up with a UV bulb, and then I sent this in a shipping container to someone with some instructions, and I'm pretty sure they never figured out how to put it together. This is a stump in the ravine near where I live, and I built a whole bunch of narrow beam LED flashlights in those specific colors, and I had maybe 5 or 6 of these flashlights, and I'm pointing them from different directions to light up my subject and then take pictures of that. So this is another way that you could call something light painting, and photographers do a lot of this with sometimes by moving their light source around, catching a subject at different angles. They might do that as a motion picture project, like a stop motion thing. So here's a different take on light painting. This is similar. This was for an event years back, and there was this existing object gazebo frame thing at the entrance to the park, and I put some lights on it, and it was a very efficient form of using existing material to turn into a light art project. And it was big and it was really bright, so everyone liked it. This is a piece I did 2015. Each of the oval spheres in there have a pixel strip and an accelerometer and a microcontroller, so that whenever you hit the post that it's on, the accelerometer tells the microcontroller to change the LED pattern. It was a very interesting exercise in programming a lot of little things, and then discovering that people didn't know how to hit the thing correctly. And when you do something to encourage people to hit things, they usually think more is better. And I sort of designed it for a light tap and ended up having to pick up a lot of pieces after they'd been knocked off. So art is always a research project. It's fun. Oh, okay, yeah. So here's another big installation project. I've got this somewhere else, so I'll skip on. This is a lantern workshop I did for Flan Canoe Voila, and we made a whole stack of feathers with really easy, commercially available LED strand lights, tissue paper, glue, and wood to make a frame. Another version of a similar workshop where it was cardboard frames cut out with colored tissue to make a stained glass effect. All right, so here's the example. So this, oh, I didn't label them correctly. So here's that installation that I showed here. And this is where I originally set it up. This is the people that paid me to build it. And you'll notice a difference between where it is here and here. Ambient light. This is a huge problem for me, is like how much light is around you. Light-based artists really need darkness to have a good time. And a lot of events maybe think light-based art's a great idea, but then they also have giant safety floodlights everywhere because safety is a good idea. And there's only one way to do safety, which is giant floodlights. There's other ways, obviously, to do it, but if you're doing a major project with light in public, check to see what else is going on over there, because this is what I wanted, and that's what we got. So it's still fine, but it's not, again, not quite what I wanted. Here's now that we're getting closer to the pattern projection stuff that I've been doing and will be working on with you here. I've been doing this kind of lantern for 10 years now-ish. Here's another form of light-based art. This is using optics and shadows. I had a workshop set up at a place. People got to play with the different lenses and crystals and shadows. So here's a setup with various different optics, and then different things that you can do with those different optics. Every one of these things is an entire universe of art that you could get into, and people do, and it can be really fun. This is a commission I did for St. Albert Art Gallery, and glass is an excellent medium for art, for light-based art, because it lets light through, and you can decide how much light you want to let through. In this case, I used a frosted pattern and then edge lit the glass so that the pattern that I etched in would show up. Here's a silhouette style art again with a couple different lamps. This is part of a larger scale installation where I'm making some formal structures and then lighting them up. Lighting up other objects, backlighting some paintings. If you're going to backlight paintings, practice it before you do it. A lot of people coming from a regular painting universe will want to layer something on top of another thing, and when you do that with a backlight, then it just turns into black really fast. So make sure that you're layering transparencies. Yeah, practice with transparency if you're going to do backlit art. More using light to show off a sculpture, and then pattern projection. Oh, yeah. So actually, I'm going to show a couple of pieces from some other people first, and then we'll get to this part here. Stop sharing. And then window. This one. Okay. So see that glowing geometric object? This is an example of an LED pixel art. The focus is on having the lines created by the strips of light and then programming those LEDs. And again, you can do an awful lot with this. It's an entire universe. People spend their entire lives as artists inside stuff like this. You can use those programmed lights to also light up other shapes, or yeah, again, you can use them on their own. And then is this going to work properly? I hope. This should be showing a large installation from Moment Factory doing projection mapping. I'm sure you've seen this before. It gets a lot of play on the internet because it's fascinating. Apparently there is someone doing projection mapping at igNIGHT. But yeah, you get your projector and you line up the shapes that you want to adjust and make art and make melt people's brains, which is the main goal of art, right? Okay, so I'm gonna jump back to sharing this window. Okay, so this is a piece that I'm going to show you the inside of it, and right. These are this shape is called a bollard. It stands up waist height roughly, and you can do different things with it. I'm putting lights inside and then projecting the pattern out onto the ground. Do a quick show of this. This is the way that I combine lights. I have each one of these colors dots represent a colored LED, and I get as many different pure colored LEDs as I can because they make a more saturated impact. You know, there's something to be said for color mixing with RGB LEDs, and I'm not going to say a lot with it right now because I can get way too nerdy about that, and it's frustrating. But this is what I'll be working with, and what we'll be working with for the igNIGHT project. You see how they each create their own little color wheel and mix in different ways to make different colors between them. And then we'll go back over here. So this 3 LEDs, there was a green or a cyan, a blue, and a lime green. And then they mix and scatter across the surface. So I'm going to go to my my phone camera, if you could switch that. So this working?
Yeah, Dylan, it's working. We're looking at your lamp right now.
All right, yeah, so you can see how if I point this at you more, you see really bright spots in the middle, right? Those are the LEDs, and then they pass through this shape, and then they project that shape onto whatever surface you got. Now, the cleaner the surface you have, the maybe more legible that pattern is, because you've got that's still fairly clean, but it's still broken up by the surface. So here is a bollard. The lights are at the top, and then each side has a pattern, and then one of these sides open, so we can look inside. I guess it's glued shut. That's exciting. I maybe have to fix this later. That'll be some bonus. Okay. So I've got the LED system on the end there, and then the whole framework there. Power comes in on the bottom, and I'm going to plug that into. And then, yeah, we see how the lights go through the shadow objects and make patterns. You'll notice how when it comes across at an angle, it changes, sort of shears the pattern in different ways. And that's certainly part of this process, is to make something that looks good at the bottom, but also at the top. And then, yeah, how it angles against the surface will change the effects that we have. Right, we'll go back to my computer. And I will share Illustrator. Okay, guess we could take a, if there's any questions right now, I could respond to those, and then we'll talk about specifics of designing after that.
Yeah, so at this point, I could ask our moderator just to unmute everyone. And Dylan, I see a question from Gulam.
Hi, Dylan. First of all, excellent work. Quick question for you. Where do you hide your cables? As I see, like, your LEDs, or even like, the bollard you showed, I'm sure like, you have to find a way to properly organize the cables and all that, so that they're not a safety or tripping hazard. So what is your approach on that?
Yeah, so that's definitely site dependent. For a lot of my work, I try and run cables overhead, and that's definitely a good safe place to keep cables. For the these the bollards, ones that are standing on the ground. The cords run on the ground as well, and for a lot of events, I'll have these on the side of the path so that that's not where people walk. But I believe in the case of igNIGHT, we're going to be using lots of cable matting, and that's another fairly established resource for event-based people.
Thank you.
Barbara? Could you unmute?
Sorry about that. What sort of power rating do your LEDs have to have? And your work is beautiful.
Oh, thanks. The ones that I've shown you are 3-watt LEDs. So a set of 3 will turn into a 10-watt lamp with the driver. I find these pretty good for low light environments. They don't show up as well in more urban lit environments. There's some things that I can do with lenses to focus more of the light tighter, and that makes a difference. It's hard to get the lights that I use in much brighter in the same size. That's a place that I do want to work with, but that might take a little longer. I guess that was a bit of a thing too. Like the lights that I'm using have a size. Each LED is like 2 to 4 millimeters across, and the ratio of the size of your light source to the distance from your shadow piece, there's sort of a minimum distance there for it to have clear shadows. So I think it's 5 to 1 is the theoretical number, but I feel like a little longer. So if it's a 2 millimeter LED, you could have your cutout pattern like this far away and still make okay shadows. I feel like this is better, so that might be more like a 10 or 50 to 1. But yeah, if you have bigger lamps, then you need more distance to make that shadow look clear.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions out there?
Well, if no one else has, I just wondered. So, do you also have lenses at the the one that you just showed us? Because there are lenses behind the LEDs.
In those ones, I'm using the lens from the LED, which is 120-degree angle, so like a really wide angle. I have ones that could work on those that go at a 60-degree angle. So yeah, depending on what I'm trying to light up, I might choose one or the other of those.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Right. See some typing maybe.
Not sure if you can hear us. Really beautiful work. Ruth and Robbie, if you have any questions, just pop them in there. There you go. What program are you using to design the shadows? Stencils. Right.
So mostly I'll use Illustrator to design, because that goes straight into my laser cutter very easily. Anything designed for cutting, you're probably going to want to use something that outputs a vector. So bitmaps, pixels are not as useful for most cutting machines. You could use something like Inkscape or AutoCAD, or there's a few other ones that are new ones that are doing vectors. And I use Illustrator because I've been, so Affinity Designer will do vectors. I've been using Illustrator forever, so it's worth it to me to just do it in Illustrator because I know how to work it. I have, I'll design the three-dimensional objects in a 3D program like Fusion 360. I have not done very much in terms of designing how the shadow is going to project through onto other surfaces. Most of that's I do by just knowing how it is kind of going to go. Blender is an open source free tool that you can use to do all the three-dimensional modeling that you could want to do, and that is my next thing that I'm going to be working with. Okay, well, yeah, maybe we'll go to Illustrator now and look at how that goes.
Excellent. So just as we're following along on our agenda, Dylan, we are under designing stencil print patterns.
Yep.
Agenda item number 3. Okay.
Sure. Okay. So here we are in Illustrator, and I have, this is my layout for this pattern in bollards. This is laid out so that I got all the holes that I can cut with, and then all of the artwork. Let's see. In this case, I started out with this part here. And then copied it over, cut it in half so that it would make play it out. There's lots of ways to do this. That's what I wanted to do for this one, make it sort of a formal French wallpaper kind of thing, because this was for Flan Canoe Volant. I have got a few pieces here. Here's my test piece. Tests. This is the large scale layout that I have to test out different things. I've got a repeat going on. This is where it's cut out. Yeah. So this object here has got a repeat on it so that anything I do to it will be affected across the whole thing. And then I've got it repeating the same size as my outline so that each one of these pieces will match the next, and still fit in. So I can wrap this whole thing around this box and it will be a fully all the way around repeating object. You don't have to do it that way. There's a lot of different ways to do this part. I like the idea that because it's three-dimensional, you can walk around it, that there's an element of seamlessness as you walk around. Obviously, we're crossing over the seams, but just the idea that the artwork travels across all these different spots, that makes sense for this particular design. In this one, I made them exact copies, so that's how it makes a seamless repeat. Here's another one that Kira actually did. Do I have this in the... Yeah, so in this case it's mirrored, and you can mirror anything and then it will make a seamless repeat as well. What else do I have? Yeah, different thing. So designing for stencils. You'll notice that none of my objects have another object inside of itself. If I were to cut this hole and then this hole out around it, then this would be a floating object and it would just not exist. So cutting anything out inside of the biggest thing that you've cut out won't really work. This is sort of the biggest difference to a regular drawing practice to drawing for stencil that I've noticed. People need to figure out. It does reduce the layering that's available as a stencil, and that's sort of just the way it is. There are things you can do. Let's get a what's going on here. What's going on is that it's just being slow, and I'm being impatient. So it is. All right, so this happens a lot in text. You'll see how inside of your A, inside of your D, E, those are all inside cutouts. If you were to, there's different ways you can work on that. There's stencil fonts, and like with this E, we've got a little tab that holds it up. With our O, we've got tabs on each side. You do more or less of that if you want to support a piece inside of another piece. You can give it tabs. If you're putting text inside something specifically, that is also a choice. So you could just have O's be giant openings and not have a centerpiece. But yeah, generally speaking, you just have to make sure that anything you want is supported. Let's do our other support issues. When you're designing in a vector, it's kind of hard to say how big a thing is. It's easy to get lost in the size, and but in the real world, when I'm cutting something out, there's a limit to how thin I can cut a piece of wood or a piece of paper or whatever it is. Either it'll be it can just be too thin, it can break. So what I'll generally do is I'll have some little guides for myself. So this is a 1/4 inch, which means that I've got a 1/4 inch of space around all this stuff. That's a well-supported cutout. This part here, that's a little tight. A bit over 1/8 of an inch. The material that I'm cutting right now can have some of this 1/8 of an inch stuff, and I think that going smaller than that would be challenging. Having a lot of thin 1/8 of an inch solid pieces wouldn't work out super well for fragility, but having some of them, that's all right. I wouldn't, try not to go smaller than that, and then keep most of your sizes between things an 1/8 of an inch. Sorry, 1/4 of an inch. The thickness of the material also has an effect when we're working on cutouts, because I'm not sure how I can show you this, but the light's going to come through the, I'll go back here, the light's going to come through your piece on this side, and then there we go. Light's going to come through on the one side, and then it has to go out the other side. And if you've got a very thin cutout here. Can you see that? Then, actually, I can do that. At a certain point, there's a lot less way to pass through when the light's coming in at an angle. Right? So you can, if you're going straight on, then it's not a problem. But when it's at a sharp angle, which these bollards are, it does make a difference. So if you've got lots of details in thin stuff in the horizontal dimension, you might need to make them thicker if you want something to actually come through. Now, for this igNIGHT project that some of you are going to be submitting some designs to, I'll work with you to, finalize going from your artwork to something that's going to cut well. So, don't stress too much out about it, but keep those things in mind in terms of sizes of cuts for the thickness of the material and the light passing through. Feel like those were the main pieces that I want to get through. Yeah, so let's maybe if there's more questions at this point.
Does anybody have any more questions about designing stencil patterns? Because this will be sort of your main takeaway if you're interested in going into sort of the design competition and entering into that by September 7th. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but go ahead. Barbara, I saw your hand up first there. Barbara, you're on mute. Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry about that. I was wondering if this is the time you're going to tell us about the dimensions of what people would be submitting for, like where, just as your point about the light being, I guess, at the bottom and how far away some of the openings would be from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's see, what's my cutout pattern? The panels are about just under 6 inches by just under 30 inches. So, and I think I might have some, I'm not sure which exact ones I'm using. There might be some that are a little larger, might be 32, 34, but that's sort of one panel's roughly in that design. Now there's going to be 4 of them, so if you could do it as individual pieces that size, or it could be 24 by 32 overall piece. There is that sort of border element, so the cuts can't go all the way to the edge. Right. So what format do you need the design in? Robbie and Ruth asked. I need it in a vector, and I've got Illustrator, so that's the easiest, but I think I can translate, if it's an SVG, that's the sort of open source vector, so SVG or AI. If you use CAD, then I could use a DXF as well, I guess. Yeah.
Fix it in post. I think you had a question.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about dimensions as well. But since that was asked, I'll think of a new question quickly. When we're designing, is there anything we need to know to get the color separation that you have, or is that all in where the LEDs are placed inside the object?
Yeah, that'll be fixed based on the LEDs inside of the object. So yeah, each LED has its own color, and so then it projects its own color pattern, and then the 3 colors overlap.
Great
you.
question. Mhm.
Working with a theme. Yes, there is a theme.
So let's segue then into that, because we have about 7 minutes left or so. So let's segue into your artist concept.
Right. I should probably have opened up the full thing, but yeah, so the overall theme is transportation of the event. And my idea was how in moving into the future, how we transport all of the things, all of the people, all of the entities, all of the creatures with us together, how we transport together across like potentially challenging times right now. The other piece that I'm doing will have more cutout work and then a whole bunch of bicycle wheels that are spinning. Yeah, so I guess the idea is sort of like a collective transportation idea. Yeah, something that's going to carry us forward in a safe and healthy way.
And that is a really great question. And I'm going to pull up the Public Art Committee has also created a curatorial theme for the event now that we have all of our artists included. So I'll pop that up here in the chat for those of you who are interested in maybe reading that through and considering that maybe in your design creations.
Yeah, I'm just going to see if I can quickly find the piece that I wrote. It might take a minute. Right. Think about it. So we also have there's the design competition work is due by the end of day on the September 7th, and then that'll give me a little bit of time to work with you for any modifications, and then we'll be cutting them and bringing them to igNIGHT in mid-early October. I guess once we've gone through that, we'll be able to see how else we can include you in participating. Like if my September's a little busy, but maybe we get there early and I can get some help from you painting or installing or something like that. But whole part sort of depends on how everything goes in September. The main thing is getting the artwork ready to go early September so that we can get the rest of the work done. Right. I'm just reading the Spectrum Odyssey thing in the meeting chat.
Yeah, I'll read it out loud for everyone. So this is the overall igNIGHT theme this year, Spectrum Odyssey, a collective journey of art, light, and technology. Spectrum Odyssey is an immersive exhibition where artists harness the captivating power of light to evoke a deeper understanding of transportation as a means of movement and as a symbol of human connection, exploration, and progress. Through the fusion of art and technology, these collections of luminous installations seek to inspire viewers to reflect on the dynamic relationship between transportation and the human experience. think we've pretty much captivated all of the artist's concepts into this one overall curatorial theme. So yeah, if you're looking for some inspiration, maybe take from some elements of that event description.
Yeah.
The curatorial theme.
One more piece for the bollards I'd want to just remember is that this is a series of bollards. There's going to be at least 12 to 16 of them, and they're going to be spread out along the path so that they will there's an opportunity, like if you're interested in doing more drawing, you could have them vary over that whole distance. Typically, I don't do a lot of variation over the distance, but that's definitely based on your process and how that may or may not work with you. But yes, there are going to be many of these bollards, so you can just keep that in mind. Fix it in post.
And I do have a question. How many bollards would you be including the selected artist's design on?
Right, because I did say 2 to 3 artists, right? So that might mean that it's 4 of each or something, or 4 to 6 of each.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so at this moment, I'll ask the moderator just to take everybody off mute, so we can throw, have a conversation, any additional questions put out there. Fix and post, I saw you had your hand up there for a minute.
I was just about to ask the exact same question you did.
Okay, excellent. What I'm going to do here is just pop up the information about the design competition in the chat here. And that has where to email in your design. You'll email it directly to public.art@rmwb.ca. And if you have any issues or sending it, or if there's any issues with sort of format, etc., we can work that out and get that over to Dylan, of course. But just make sure you get your designs in by the end of day, September 7th. So whatever end of day is to you, if you are not on Mountain Standard Time. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments for Dylan? Any other random thoughts, or maybe some comments about the incredible work that he's already done?
Fix it in post.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the work you showed was beautiful and captivating. And I'm really excited to have a chance to share in the project.
Awesome, yeah. I'm excited to see what other people do with this. That's actually a really interesting thing for me. I've been doing stencil work a lot over the years, and sometimes I'll just hand people a stack of stencils and watch them paint. It's really interesting to see people bring their practice to something that I've started.
Wonderful, thank you. Go ahead, Barbara.
So I just wanted to say that it was it's just great to have this opportunity, that it's different from a lot of what we're exposed to, and so really really great to see this as something that's been put on, and looking forward to seeing the whole thing. Thanks.
Thanks, Barbara. Well, as I mentioned, yeah, go ahead, Dylan.
Okay, yeah. I hope that as you work through this, you'll start to get ideas as to how you can do this kind of work in different ways. There's a lot of different ways to use cutout work, and it's definitely a thing that can work into lots of different art practices in different ways.
Yeah. And I should mention, if you ever need access to anything like a CNC machine or something like that, Startup YMM does have these available. So in Fort McMurray, the community of Fort McMurray, if you sign up to be a member with Startup YMM, you can likely have access to that type of machinery and even AutoCAD and different types of software as well. So that could be an option for you if you're looking for that. And I also believe that Keanu College has a machine as well, quite large machine, but maybe start with Startup YMM because all you need is a membership for access to that site.
Yeah.
A little bit of promotion for them.
I guess, yeah, one more accessibility thing. If you don't have access to a software that does vector format stuff, I can, if you make stuff with clear black outlines, I can convert that too. So it could just be a pretty, like a high resolution black and white piece of work. You could do it with paint or whatever if you don't have the software.
Okay. That's perfect. Any other questions? No? Yes. Well, Dylan's always available and we're connected with him. We're really excited to see the work that comes out for the igNIGHT exhibition. Just a gentle reminder, igNIGHT is October 13th to the 22nd. Dylan will be here on site for opening and for closing. Still working out, I'm not sure, he'll be probably in and out during the whole exhibition, but please reach out to public.art@rmwb.ca if you want some chance, maybe we can meet up, or if you want to speak to him or meet him in person, please do so. We're very open here. We love to chat, so please connect with Public Art, with the Public Art team. But other than that, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. And of course, thank you to the RMWB for allowing these wonderful opportunities and to the Public Art Committee for their continued support of this program as well. And with that, I wish you all a great afternoon. Thank you,
Right.
Dylan.
Right. Thanks. And yeah, thanks. Bye.
Thank you.